You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and can will be used against you in the court of law. You have the right to talk to a lawyer and have the present with you while you're being questioned. If you cannot afford to hire a lawyer, one will be appointed to represent you before any questionings if you wish. All right. You good, dude?
Hey everybody, today is 12/24 of 2024. It is 11 o'clock at night for me here. Happy Christmas Eve, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. I hope you and your family are spending an entire evening of just joy and happiness and fun. Um, I want to do just a small series over the next 2 days of when Christmas turns criminal. Did you know that crimes like theft and scams increase by nearly 20% during the holiday season? I had no idea that that percentage was that high. The holidays are supposed to be for togetherness and cooking and fun and but sometimes beneath the surface not everyone is in the spirit of goodwill. I'm sure you would agree. It's a magical season. It can bring out the worst in some people, though. You can have stresses, financial strain, heightened emotions, and even family separations that can cause unexpected crime stories, like the one we're going to talk about today. On Christmas Eve of 2008, 45-year-old Bruce Jeffrey Pardo entered a party at his former in law's residence in Covina, California. He was dressed up in a Santa costume and he took the lives of 9 individuals, including that of his ex wife. Marital issues are the presumed reason behind the attack, as Sylvia filed for divorce a week before the incident. All of this information that I'm citing right now comes from an Instagram story that I read that I will be sharing in the description below called the Covina Christmas Memoriam. One single individual targeted not just the ex wife, but her whole family and everybody that was at the party who simply found themselves in the middle of the whole thing. He used a 9 millimeter semi-automatic handgun as well as a homemade flamethrower. He concealed it in gift wrap, and he used it to pour gasoline, like you heard, race car fuel, throughout the residence and set their home on fire. After shooting um, several individuals, only 2 of which survived due to the severity of the fire. That made identifying individuals and the cause of death almost difficult to determine. Well, almost impossible to determine. 9 individuals did lose their lives and 3 were wounded. An 8-year-old niece of Sylvia was one who survived. That particular news story was on CBS Evening News. After the massacre, Pardo drove approximately 30 miles from the residence. He noticed that he was burnt, and so he decided to off himself. His body was discovered with a self inflicted gunshot wound. It was discovered by the authorities that the rental car that Pardo was using had been rigged with gunpowder, and his home had been described as containing a virtual factory of bombs. So, despite the nature of the crimes, though, Pardo did not have a criminal record before the massacre, but the atrocities of his actions have left 13 children orphaned, literally destroying an entire family just to exact revenge against his ex wife. While police were busy investigating the Christmas Eve massacre, investigations in neighboring Sylmore, California, were called to the home of Brad Parda, who returned home from a Christmas party to find his brother lying face down in a pool of blood. Once the police arrived, they found a single gunshot wound from that 9 millimeter handgun in Bruce's head. There was a 9 millimeter pistol in Bruce's lap once he ran out of bullets. And he didn't realize that there was an open flame somewhere inside of the house. So it led to an explosion that literally left him horrifically burned and blew up the entire residence. Instead of driving to do the same thing to Sylvia's attorney, which was his original plan, he went to his brother's house because he was so badly burned and decided to take his own life. He was trying to find ways to get back at Sylvia. I think he decided that he wasn't going to just get rid of her, but he was going to get rid of everyone that she loved and wipe their family off of the planet. He was ordered to pay spousal support, but when the divorce actually finalized before the holiday, the spousal support ended up being waived at that time because he lost his job. In July, before this incident on Christmas Eve, Bruce's employer realized that he had been fraudulently billing his clients for hours he didn't actually work, and so he was fired. The owner of the shop where Pardo bought the Santa suit said that he was a regular customer there, so she was completely unaware of any malicious intentions. The Los Angeles County coroner identified all of Pardo's victims: ex-wife Sylvia Pardo, 43, her parents, Joseph Ortega, who was 80, and his wife Alicia, who was 70. Her two brothers, James Ortega, who was 52, Charles Ortega, who was 50, and their wives, Teresa, who was 51, and Sherry, who was 45. Sylvia Pardo's sister, Alicia Ortiz, was 46, and then her son, Michael Ortiz, who was 17. It was also speculated that Bruce Pardo had planned to go to his mother's house after to get revenge on his mother. He believed she was always defending his ex wife, and we believe he was going to do the same to her.
We went to our usual party and we came home and we found the house on fire and all the cars in the driveway. So my husband and I stopped our car in the middle of the street, ran into the house to try and
This is the neighbor, Teresa.
we thought it was just a fire. So we thought we would see if anybody was in there. We were hoping that nobody was in there. The fact that the cars were in the driveway was very worrisome.
Yeah.
And just then some other neighbors came out and said they're shooting. So we ran into another neighbor's house and laid on the floor and waited for the police and the fire department. But unfortunately, because there were shots fired, the fire department wasn't going to do anything. So we saw the house burning, and that day, because it was raining a little bit, it saved our house because the houses are connected by trees. They actually took a tree out, but the houses were connected by trees, so we thought for sure our house would be next. And found out, my husband went to this house, which is where the family was, and we found out what happened, and we just couldn't believe it because this was not a family that there was normally any trouble on Christmas Eve. There was never any, it was unbelievable. We had no idea that.
It looks like the mother and father of Sylvia, Joseph and his wife, were from Torreon, Mexico. And so they had a big family. They were very dedicated as far as, the family dynamics is concerned.
It was a horrible case of domestic violence, and it's further changed the way that I've taught my daughter to view people and warning signs, which there really weren't any. This came completely out of nowhere. He was people interviewed him from the FBI, and they never really saw anything coming. He was a very complicated man with very deep psychological issues, obviously.
So I heard her say just now that people had reviewed him or had interviewed him from the FBI, and I'm wondering if that has anything to do with maybe his history, his job history. I'm sure that some of my subscribers out here might know about this story and could fill me in on that.
Okay, and you said that you guys had no idea, like, of his thoughts or, like, anything that would trigger him into, like...
No, I never really liked him, and I don't know why that was. He was a little bit off-putting, and he gave me a very weird vibe. And then after she left him, she was back to her normal self. She went back in with her folks, and she was back to her normal self.
You guys arrived home and you noticed that the house was on fire. What made you, like, want to, like, help them, like, not knowing exactly what was going on?
I think just the human nature of, we didn't think it through. It was probably, we had two little kids in the car, so it probably was not our best decision because something could have happened to us running into a burning house. Firefighters run into a burning house. Normal people don't.
Oh, so you guys actually went inside?
Yeah,
oh,
yeah.
Wow.
We got as close as we could, and the heat was so intense you couldn't go inside.
Oh my
so we
God.
got kind of up to the door, and that's what also was kind of a red flag for us that it was not a normal fire, because it was so hot that you couldn't get very close, and it was like a movie. You could see fire in every window.
Really?
And it was just...
So yeah, it was 18 gallons, not just regular gasoline, but racing fuel. So it was burning at a higher temperature, and then an open flame in the house, whatever that was, would have exacerbated the issue.
It was just
Oh, wow.
just a crazy fight. But yeah, I don't know, that it's one of those things where your brain doesn't work, you know, you just go on. Maybe being parents, grief therapy is incredible. It really, I got the people from the city and the county of Los Angeles had some grief counselors come and talk to us.
The families aren't the only people that end up suffering. It's the neighbors around you in the neighborhood, the police officers, the firefighters, everybody that helps in these cases is human. And we should all keep that in mind whenever we're talking about these cases, that it doesn't just affect the victim and their immediate family. Sometimes this affects whole communities.
It was very difficult at night. That was a trigger.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't come home to my house at night
Oh,
because it
wow.
would trigger
Oh, wow.
trauma for me. So I stayed at my parents' house for a long time, who lived down the street. And finally I decided, you know what, I have to take the kids, have to go home to their house. We have to go on with our lives. We have to.
Oh, wow.
So that's what I always tell my kids. The reason that I went on and moved on was that I had to get up every day. I had to take you guys to school. I had to feed you breakfast. You have to go on.
Yeah.
You can't. And talking with the family members helped. Helping them heal helped us heal. Doing things for them. We did fundraisers. We still have the bags that they gave us that year with their presents in them with their handwriting on it.
Oh,
We just
wow.
can't. It's still, this helped a little bit, having new people here. And they have a new baby. They have a little baby, so that's kind of neat too. It's nice to see life over there again and life renewing itself. But it's still, we've gotten better. It's been 10 years.
And that actually posted on December of 2019. So it's been a few more years since then. And it was very, very sweet to see the way that they portrayed the family, the respect that they had for the family. This was the newspaper where they told about the $1,784 a month in spousal support. This was the body of Pardo. And this is the flamethrower that was wrapped. That is unbelievably scary, that right there. This is the remains of the Santa suit. The costume burned itself into his skin after he received third-degree burns. Play with fire, you're going to get burned. This was the remainder of the house at that time. This is Leticia Ortega, and she was a survivor of the incident. Katrina was the 8-year-old that survived being shot in the face. And this is in remembrance of Alicia Ortega. Oh, she said she was 8 when the man dressed as Santa Claus shot her in the face and then got rid of 9 of her family members. It's devastating. It was really nice to see the new house up here. I really like that they post that. And these girls wrote, just being where they rebuilt the home felt amazing. It was extremely peaceful, and they shared laughter with each other. It was a great experience, and she was really happy to hear more about the Ortega family. So it says for the police department, some of the officers that responded, they still work for the department. And they still follow up on leads and stuff all these years later. It's interesting. I'm sure they've learned a lot from that. So this says she worked to save Christmas for her kids, telling them that wasn't the real Santa, and calling friends from the hospital to make sure gifts were put under their tree. The kids were later sent to a camp that helps with grief. Oh my gosh. She's now 41. She's had years of therapy that have helped, although she still suffers from anxiety and nightmares. It says, I lost my identity completely. I also used to tease them that I have 5 sets of parents, everyone telling me what to do and how to do it. I can't even tell you how much I miss them. An overwhelming but hard to describe feeling of loss often sneaks up, especially in December. Everywhere you turn, there are memories of what we used to have, and when memories of that night, you can't escape it. That's crazy. More than 9 years later, Katrina, 17, is joining a growing number of teenagers who have survived gun violence. and they're demanding change to weapons laws. She and students across California and the US joined for the 17 minutes on Wednesday. That was December 11th, 2019. She and students across California and the US joined for the 17 minutes on Wednesday, each minute representing a victim of the February 14th shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Katrina and her close friend created a video to help spread the word about the walkout at their school in Pasadena, telling peers that it's their duty to stand together as a generation to demand change. This is Joseph and his wife. This is Sylvia Ortega. She was the wife of Pardo. She was always interested in business and took a job as a secretary out of high school. Family members said Sylvia was a hard worker and carried a cheerful demeanor. And this is a picture of the Ortega family enjoying a shared moment with one another through preparing traditional foods for the holidays and creating friendships among their community. It's for the kindness, traditions, and generosity that their family and friends remember their loved ones. That was the first story in When Christmas Turns Criminal series. As always, thank you for hanging with Hio.